Alright guys, so I wanted to show you something that happened when I came out to the engine this morning and see if you can figure out what it is. So I'll turn the engine off and re-crank it. So, before I tell you what it is, see if you can guess what it is. There is some leaking diesel fuel. That's the other clue I'm going to give you. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you what is happening with the TDI right here. Several years ago, I think it was about 6 years ago, I did a video on how to replace the O-ring on the quantity adjuster cap and also the quantity adjuster body. There's really four places, major places that you can have a leak. You can have it at the quantity adjuster cap, you can have it at the quantity adjuster body, you can have it at the pump head to body. This is a cast iron head and there's an O-ring inside there. Or you could have it at the fuel lines. Now of course, yeah, you can have your fuel stop solenoid leak and maybe some seals here, but that's the major areas. Well, upon inspection, I noticed that the leak really is coming from the head, the seal in the head. That's the O-ring that I did not do last time because it wasn't leaking. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that job. If you were to take this into, say, a Volkswagen dealer, they're going to tell you need a new pump. And I think these pumps are about $1,000 to $1,200. You do not need a new pump. Now I have pretty much cleaned everything up. Well, this is how it pretty much stays. But I just wanted to make sure that everything is spotless. You need to take some brake cleaner, I like to use the Schaefer's citrus cleaner, and clean around the pump, all this, so it should be pretty much spotless like this. Okay, and I'm going to roll this into the shade and I'm going to show you the proper way to replace the pump seal on the head without having to use without having to remove the pump off of the car, because you want to avoid doing that if possible. All three of these seals, they're actually O-rings you can do with the pump on the body. Now this happens to be a 1998 Jetta TDI. If you have a later model version, like from the 2000s, your pump is going to be canted back a little further. It's actually a little easier to work on than this one. But it's basically the same pump, and it'll have an aluminum valve cover where this one has a steel one. This is the AHU engine. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start repairing this process. All right, once again, I have to behind me. That guard is anyway, so number one is I'm going to replace or remove the injector lines. I'm going to crack the lines loose at the injector first. That's 17 millimeter. Then I'm going to crack them loose at the pump itself. Now, so you'll notice the lines aren't pairs, so I'm going to go ahead and take the pair that's closest or easiest to do, which is these two cylinders here. The back nut along the bottom, you can't get to until you actually move these ones here. So this one like that, and then I'm going to remove the other two nuts on the bottom and take the ones out. Next, I'm going to take 4 of the caps that come in the Diesel Geek kit. And place them on the pump head so we don't get any debris in there. Next, I'm going to remove the vacuum line and set it aside. Next, I'm going to remove the dipstick too. We're not going to start this portion. Next, I'm going to put caps on the injectors themselves. Now the caps are on one side, and you see they'll fall off like that, so now I'm going to looking for it. Next, I'm going to disconnect the main electrical connection to the pump and set that aside. Then I'm going to take the Torx bit and remove the clamp that holds the other electrical connection. This is a T25. After that, there is a connector assembly down here, and I'm going to disconnect that so that you have the pigtail like this, and I'm just going to set it aside. Now, I'm not going to remove this because I'm just trying to get it out of the way of where the pump's going to slide. And I'm going to put the small screw back in here so we don't lose it. Next, I'm going to remove this return line from the injector, and then I've already loosened this with a 17mm. You may need to get another 17 or a pair of pliers to hold this, which I'm going to have to do. Next, I'm going to use an 8mm wrench and remove the electrical connection to the fuel stop solenoid. Alright, next there are 2 brackets, one here and one below, and I'm going to work on the below one first. Alright, so I'm going to use a 13mm socket. You may or may not have to use an extension. I don't have to on this one. Alright, so I've loosened the bolt on that bracket. Now we're going to remove this bracket here. It takes a T30. So I'm just going to let the bracket lay down here because there's still a wire clamp attached to it. Next, we want to remove our fuel stop solenoid. Alright, this is a 24mm, and it shouldn't be in there tight at all. There is a single O-ring that keeps it from leaking. Alright, so now at this point we have to make sure that the internal plunger is forced as far forward as we can get it. Now the only way that we can do that is by either removing the quantity adjuster and looking inside the pump housing as we rotate the engine over to see the assembly moving forward, or we can go to the front of the pump, remove the pin here and stick a drill bit in there and watch that as we rotate the engine. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to remove the top of the valve cover, or I'm sorry, the top of the timing belt cover. So I'm going to remove my air boot, set that aside. Now what I want to do is I'm going to remove the top of the cover here. There's some clips. All right, so that, let me show you close up of the pin. That's the pin, and we want to get a drill bit that's about a little smaller than that. We're going to stick it in there and then rotate the engine over, and as we see the drill bit go out to its maximum travel, that's where we want to be. Alright, so I have a 5/32 drill bit, which I'm going to place inside the hole where that pin was, and I'm going to use my turning tool. I'm going to turn the engine clockwise, and I'm going to see what happens as I turn this over, and what I'm looking for is the pin to start moving out. This is really easy if you have two people. Alright, so I'm going to keep my hand on the plunger. Now it's going out, it's going out. Okay, it's stagnant, now it's going back in. I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, there, it's going out. So that's exactly where we want it. That means the assembly inside there is completely pushed forward, which will help keep spring pressure on the plunger inside so it will not fall apart when we slide the head out. So now I'm going to replace the pin that was in there. Just snug it up. Alright, the final thing that we need to do is I need to remove this bracket. Now there's three, on this one there's 3 Torx screws, so we are going to go ahead and get our T30. Alright, so I think both of these other 2 screws or bolts are... Alright, so I had to remove the engine cover bracket that was right here. Now I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. I was almost at the point where I was going to have to pull this pump off. Let me tell you why. I have a Torx bit. This is a made in USA Torx bit that I've been using. And get a brand new fresh Torx bit to take these back screws off, bolts off, because basically it's stripped, both of them stripped. I did have another one. This is a cheap Chinese, like a Pronto or whatever, but it's sharp, it's never been used. And thankfully I was able to loosen these 2 cap screws here. It would have been a disaster. I mean, I would have had to, I guess, do a video on taking the pump off. So I'm going to very slowly and try as evenly as I can loosening these 2 opposing bolts. Alright, so I'm going to take a pick and see if I can get the O-ring out. It is still slightly pliable. It's not completely hard. It's been in here for over 300,000 miles. Alright, here is the groove right there, and I have got the head of the pump just out. I can't get any closer. Out just enough so that the other side of the groove is showing. And I have all 4. I deviated from some procedures you've seen on YouTube maybe. I have all 4 bolts in here just to see how far this will go out It is a little loose, but there's no other way to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the procedure and let you guys follow along, but I wanted to show you the groove just so you can see what we're working with.